Welcome to TJ Walker Interactive, where we bring you breaking news that Rahm Emanuel is not going to be allowed to run for mayor of Chicago. Word coming out earlier today that the Illinois Supreme Court is ruling that he is not a Chicago resident. We turn now to TJ Walker. If I know anything about Rahm Emanuel, it's that he's going to come back fighting on this issue. What's the communication strategy that he should be taking on this?
Well, he actually has a greater legal problem than he does a communications problem, because I think the average Chicago voter, I mean, they're not looking at him and saying, well, this is just some guy who lived in New York his whole life and is now a carpetbagger. I mean, Rahm Emanuel is a guy who lived basically his whole life in Chicago, was a Chicago congressman, and then, yes, for a year, he was Obama's chief of staff. And I just think the average fair-minded voter says, you know, that's kind of like somebody in the military. They're serving their country. If somebody was a Marine and off in the Middle East and wanted to come back and run for office, nobody in their right mind would say, well, you didn't actually live here. There's no doubt he is a Chicagoan. So I think his problem is primarily legal. Obviously, if you hate the Democrats or you hate Clinton or you hate Obama, and Rahm Emanuel worked for both of them, this is a fun moment, it's a chuckle moment. It's always great when something bad happens to one of your political enemies, but as far as most voters, it just is a way of robbing democracy because you're removing choice from the voters. So I think as far as Rahm Emanuel talking about it, I think he needs to keep on campaigning, keep on talking about how he's going to improve Chicago and the life for people, and then follow the legal strategy. He does have an appeal. It's obviously going to be appealed. One of the judges did side with him, and I think this is going to keep on being appealed until Rahm Emanuel gets on the ballot. I would not want to be the judge or the bureaucrat responsible for keeping Rahm Emanuel off the ballot, in part because he is such a forceful and strong and competitive individual. In part, I just don't think that this is what the elected officials of Chicago had in mind when drawing up residency requirements. I'm TJ Walker.